has been positive because I've really enjoyed doing it anyway, and having a more one-to-one with each individual through the mobile, because obviously it's not only keeping in contact with them, but it's also that I'm giving them extra questions at home, so it's allowing them to think outside of class times and giving me the answer. I'm not saying that it comes back straight away, but they do go and research and then they come back, so yeah, it has worked that way.
I do think it was good outside class when Sheila would text a question to me to make me think about it again, because when I leave the room, very often I wouldn't think about it until the next week. So that was quite useful, a good idea, I think.
Yes, Sheila did. She texted me one evening and just within the text asked me a question which I added in one of my sheets early in the day, and she just texted me and asked me a question that I didn't quite get right in the daytime, and it gave me a chance to think then, and I could text her back, and then she tagged me back and said, yeah, well then, it was the correct answer. So it was like a carry on from the day where I'd made a mistake. She showed me the right way to do it in the daytime, and then she just in the evening she just text me to make sure that I take it on board and threw another question at me. Cool. And I could answer the question, and then straight away after I text back, she sent me a reply saying, well then, that's the correct answer.
Hard to say. I don't think it's a particular aid to retention, because I think in the community people have other issues. These are not students at college, these are people with children, with elderly parents, with jobs, and there are other issues that stop them coming to class. So I suspect I'll be losing one or two now because we've gone past the Christmas period, and I don't think any amount of text and me phoning is going to particularly help. I think they quite like the fact that I'm in contact with them, and some of them, it's almost like a race, I think, to see who can respond first, because I'll usually text them back and say, well done, first answer in. So yeah, I think, but it's always the same ones who respond to me. Right. If I get somebody who doesn't normally respond, I then send a message saying, oh, really nice to hear from you, I'm glad you've used the system. But there's a cohort that always respond.
It helps the learning process continue throughout the week, where otherwise I may have not have gone back to that work. So it has assisted my learning, keeping it fresh in my mind, as I say, keeping the learning process going. So I come back into class with more of an awareness of the question I was asked there, whereas I could have, had a busy week, not gone back to that question, then come in not remembering what we had done the previous week. We were asked the question, that's what we did on currency conversion, and I'd pretty much forgotten by the time the question was asked how to times it, how to work the sum out. So then I had to go back to my notes, and again that challenged me to remember that and relearn that, and then it's in my mind now for this week. So when we go back to it, we'll know.
I've always got my phone on me, I'm always out and about normally, and you could be out and about, I could be walking through Asda shopping, and all of a sudden a text message comes through and it's like, change this into grams, or change this, or do algebra, and straight away you're there thinking, and it gets you thinking, and I'll go home and I'll be thinking about it still for about half an hour to an hour afterwards, trying to do other examples in my head. So I think it's a really good way of just, Mary doesn't send it the next day after class, she doesn't send it the next day afterwards, it's a couple of days after, so she's given us time to perhaps forget about it and put it back in a part of our mind, and then all of a sudden the text comes through and you're back on the board again, and I think it just gives us that little kick midweek, so when we come back on the Wednesday for maths, we've already got it in our head because we've done that bit halfway through. We haven't gone a whole 7 days, we've perhaps gone about 3 days, and it's fresh then.
Impact on learning would definitely be the reminding side of it. It's like you go home, and sometimes you can go home on a Wednesday and forget all about it until the following Wednesday, which I probably would have done. With the text, it breaks up the week. I could have a text now, say tomorrow, Friday, and I will go and look at my work, and I'll have to research all the questions she's asked me to give her the answers. So if she didn't text me, I wouldn't even probably look at it till the next week I come to class. So revision-wise, it just hits every aspect of that. You just go and revise your work.
The texts coming through have made it useful, easier. If you're stuck on a bit of homework, you can send a text to it and she'll pick it up in a couple of hours, and she'll text you back saying, oh, you got to do it this way, and she'll help you with it.
A couple of the students openly admitted they didn't know the answer to the question that I posed, so they were fairly honest in their response, in which case I asked them to try and do some research prior to the lesson to find out a little bit about the play or the topic that we were actually going to deal with, so that they knew a little bit about it before they arrived at the lesson. The questions, I found that it was the same students who responded to the questions. But in terms of praise and giving them a pat on the back, I found that most, if not all, the students responded to those messages.
It's definitely my memory, jogging my memory and stuff like that, which is good for me because so much going on. You tend to, I know it's important because I'm doing it, but little menial things like print your homework, remember to be here, you know, remember to be here such and such time for a resit, that's very important. So I think it's been good for jogging memory more than anything. So I knew in myself what I needed to study for, really, kind of, to improve my grade on the one and to get a better grade on the other.
In preparing for lessons, of course it's a very good way of getting everyone in the class familiar with what's going to happen on the coming Thursday and preparing for it.
He's helped us keep us focused and up to date. As I said, mentioned, yes, it's been very helpful for us. And for me personally, yes, it has been helpful. He reminded me that I had to do this particular work for the next lesson, and he's also told me that I would need to bring in a particular book of writing.
It was nice to have the accessibility to the technology that felt modern, and I felt it connected more with the learning process, as it was.
I've never experienced it being used in this way before, so I was generally surprised when our tutor asked for our numbers at the start of the course and said she was going to be popping questions. I was even more surprised when I got a maths question out the blue. It was on a Sunday morning. I was in bed and the question came through. So it's good though, because it keeps you on your mind, and all of a sudden you're thinking, oh no, what was how did we do it? How did you work it out? So yeah, I was fairly surprised. Yeah.
The students at the end of the day have been happy to join in with the project, and I certainly will not let that disappear just because the project is finished. So the intention is to keep in contact with them at least once a week, encourage them to come into class, maybe question and answers, but yeah, definitely will continue with them.
I think so, because I taught in a high school for 30 years, and of course you weren't allowed to do this with children. With older students now, mature students, adults, it's a great tool.
I do hope that after the support disappears that we still have text so that we can use it with the students, because I'll be really disappointed if it disappears before the GCSE class finishes in June this year. And I would also love to have it from September for next year as well.
Serves as a very good, I think it gels them together, it brings them together, because if they get a message from me, I found that they've been texting each other to say, did you get that message from Derek? What did he mean by, and they've been sort of cross-referencing, which I think is good, because it's improved the dynamics in the class as well.
Reminds me, and it helps me keep focused.